Shocking news, friends. One-time stimulus checks worth up to $700 will be automatically deposited for millions of Americans, including low-income households and Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and RRB beneficiaries. Friends, this is really big news. $700 will be provided to those that are experiencing financial hardships right now due to the rising cost of living and inflation. It is wonderful to see that some of our lawmakers are finally working together for the American people. But there are newly released details on this next batch of stimulus payments. So it is extremely important that you stay and watch until the end of this video. I will be sure to cover all of the details and questions that you have on these $700 checks, including who exactly will be eligible. Friends, remember, I'm committed to helping and supporting everyone in this community in any way possible. That is why I'm also giving away 4 $75 Walmart gift cards every week. If you would like to enter these giveaways, please click and like several of my videos and comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. All right, friends. So here is some big news on stimulus. The deadline is fast approaching for South Carolina residents to file their tax returns in order for them to receive rebates totaling up to $700 by the end of the year. State lawmakers approved a bill laying out the parameters for a tax rebate in June. Eligible taxpayers can have up to the extension deadline of October 17th to file their state individual income tax return for 2020. Rebate checks will be rolled out by the end of the year. And in order to qualify, applicants must file their tax return by the deadline, have a tax liability for 2021, and must be a resident of South Carolina. The cap for payments is set at $700. Checks can come via direct deposit, debit card, or in the mail. These rebates were included in a $13.8 billion budget that cleared the state legislature back in June. The rebates were projected to cost roughly $1 billion. But not only are South Carolina residents receiving this extra relief, but many Illinois residents as well. Eligible residents of Illinois have until mid-October to file their taxes to receive up to $700 in tax rebates. It is part of the state of Illinois' Family Relief Plan. Residents of Illinois have until October 17th to file taxes to receive these rebates, with specific amounts being given based upon filing and the number of dependents. Individual filers making less than $200,000 will receive a $50 rebate, and couples who earn less than $400,000 a year will receive $100. All filers can receive an additional $100 per dependent for a maximum of 3 dependents. According to a press release from the Illinois Senate Democrats, rebates provided by the government will be equal to the property tax as a resident that was qualified to claim on their 2021 taxes. According to a press release from the Illinois Senate Democrats, rebates provided by the government will be equal to the property tax that a resident was qualified to claim on their 2021 taxes. The Illinois Family Relief Plan, which was supported by State Senator Meg Capel, includes millions of dollars, which are aimed at providing relief in several different ways, including tax rebates. Senator Capel told reporters this week, "I want Illinois families to know they are not alone. We are in your corner to help you navigate this uncertain time. These rebates will help people with everyday expenses like gas and groceries." Friends, this is really awesome news because I know that it's extremely hard to afford many necessities, especially with the rising costs of so many items. Friends, the key word for this video today is Copenhagen, Denmark. If you would like to enter tomorrow's Walmart gift card giveaway, please click and like several of my videos and then comment below this keyword, which is Copenhagen, Denmark, and additional keywords of any video of mine that you watch. And do make sure, friends, that you are subscribed to my channel. The Federal Reserve escalated its fight against inflation this week instituting a major rate increase and saying more will likely follow. The central bank said that the moves will cause a jump in the number of unemployed Americans by the end of next year. Also, the Fed has put forward a series of aggressive interest rate hikes in recent months as it tries to slash price increases by slowing the economy and choking off demand. But the approach risks tipping the United States into a deep recession and causing widespread joblessness. Fed Chair Jerome Powell this week acknowledged that the rate hikes would cause pain for the U.S. economy as growth slows and unemployment rises. He also stated that a failure to restore price stability would mean far greater pain later on. The job losses forecasted by the Fed this week would, by the end of 2023, raise the unemployment rate from its current level of 3.7% to 4.4%, and that outcome would add an estimated 1.2 million unemployed Americans. According to economists, those job losses will disproportionately fall on some of the most vulnerable workers. Data from the two most recent recessions in 2020 and in 2007 indicates that young workers suffer the most when the economy contracts. During the crisis-induced recession, young workers became jobless at a much higher rate than older workers. According to ABC News, from spring 2019 to spring 2020, the overall unemployment rate among workers ages 16 to 24 rose from 8.4% to 24.4%, while unemployment for workers ages 25 and older rose from 2.8% to 11.3%. There was a similar outcome that followed the Great Recession. So friends, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think our government should do to lower inflation? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, my marvelous friends, that is the end of my daily stimulus update video for this afternoon. Thank you, dear friends, for joining me here every single time I post a video. And I truly appreciate all of you for doing so. To say thank you, I'll be announcing a winner for the Walmart gift card giveaway tomorrow. Please remember to enter the keywords in the comment section below and do stay tuned for that video. Thank you, friends, and have a wonderful and blessed Sunday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to thank my friend from Kentucky, who truly is an expert on fiscal policy and truly understands the situation that we are in our country. We just simply cannot afford to continue down this path and expect that there will not be consequences. Consequences for us, and if not for us, certainly for future generations. At the least, we are mortgaging the future of our kids and our grandkids, and it is completely irresponsible. We just came back, all of us back in our districts, and I can tell you, I spent most of the weekend out talking to people across the district, and they are very concerned about the impact of this president's policy and the policy of this Congress on their daily lives. I have constituents who are choosing each week whether they can buy groceries or whether they can buy gas for the car. I spoke just recently to one constituent who had been out of the workforce for about 10 years. This individual, by the way, had 13 kids, which I thought was amazing, but he'd been out of the workforce for 13 years and just took a job because he can no longer make ends meet because of the policies of this president and the rising prices that have been created by the policies of this administration. And they are angry that the president had a White House party to celebrate the passage of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. And this celebration, of course, just recently was broadcast amid a backdrop of the plummeting stock market, and upon the news that morning, just that morning, of another month of record high inflation. And no matter how the president wants to talk about it, no matter how Democrats want to talk about it, Madam Speaker, he says that inflation has leveled off, but we're still at 8.3% 5% above what prices were just 12 months ago. That is something we haven't seen in our country for about 40 years. And this was after Democrats and the president were saying this would be transitory inflation. You'd think if we're in a hole, at some point we'd stop digging. But instead, the president, congressional Democrats, while they're patting themselves on the back, continue to spend taxpayer dollars. Just last night, President Biden was on 60 Minutes arguing that he deserves some credit, again, for his fiscal policies while inflation is at another 40-year high. The president speaks fiscal responsibility, yet every action that he takes only balloons our debt and balloons our deficits. It is far past time for his wasteful inflationary spending agenda to come to an end. The American people, the constituents in my district, can no longer afford the policies of this administration. Tonight, for the next 45, 50 minutes or so, I'm going to be proud to welcome some of my Republican colleagues, including fellow members of the House Budget Committee and others, who share the deep concerns that were just outlined by Congressman Barr, and you'll be hearing from others, concerns about the fiscal state of our nation and the trajectory that we're on. So over the next hour, we're going to take stock of this administration's reckless budget agenda and some of the drastic consequences that we're hearing about from our constituents. And so our first person I'd like to welcome to join us tonight is Dr. John Joyce of Pennsylvania, who is a great member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. We won't argue tonight about which committee is the best committee. I serve on the Ways and Means Committee. But John is a dear friend of mine, a wonderful member of Congress. I'm very, very proud to serve with him. I'm proud to count him as a friend. He's doing a fabulous job as a member of that committee and member of Congress. And I look forward to his insights
on goods and services, and that causes prices to increase further. Earlier this year, the San Francisco branch of the Federal Reserve Bank wondered why inflation was so much worse here in the United States than that experienced by other countries, particularly in Europe. So they did a study, and several months ago, they released the results of this study. And their findings were stark. They said that deficit government spending is at the root cause of why inflation is so much worse here in the United States than it is in other countries. Madam Speaker, when the actions of government result in people paying more, that's called a tax. And inflation in the United States represents an unseen tax paid by every single American family. And unfortunately, this is a tax that is borne disproportionately by those who can least afford to pay it, the impoverished and the working poor in this country. But I have an even deeper concern this evening, Madam Speaker. Several weeks ago, the Congressional Budget Office released their long-term fiscal forecast, in which they analyze the finances of the United States over the next 30 years. They do this every year, and Congress, frankly, never pays attention. Well, Madam Speaker, Congress and the American people need to start paying attention to what the CBO has to say. The CBO says that our current national debt stands at over $30 trillion. If you do the math, that is over $90,000 for every single American man, woman, and child, over $90,000 each, and that's today. The CBO says that right now our federal government runs a deficit of about 30% of all federal spending. That represents about 4% of our gross domestic product. But at the end of the forecast period, the CBO says that our deficit will nearly triple to 11% of our GDP. At that time, just paying interest on the national debt will eclipse all of our